Go on, don't just sit there. Let's hear it. Bark. Maybe then you'll earn the right to leave.
The general didn't knock. 6 days ago, she made her maid bark like a dog. No warning, no radio call, just the thunder of rotors cracking open the sky above Buckhead, Atlanta. Magnolia trees shaking, security cameras spinning, neighbors at their windows. Inside the marble foyer, Nadia Al-Rashid, known in Atlanta as Viven, stood in silk at 11 in the morning, phone already raised, already dialing. She had never once in her life been told no. Today was going to be different. On the driveway stood Dahlia Carver, 27, second-hand jacket, backpack over one shoulder. The woman they had come for. She didn't look at the helicopter. She looked at the woman in the doorway, the one who had clipped a leash around her neck in front of 14 guests and smiled while doing it. Then she turned and walked toward the general, and this time she didn't stop.
Stay tuned to see why she was taken by the military and how she will take her revenge from Viven. Dahlia Carver was never supposed to be a maid. Her teachers called her brilliant, the kind of mind that comes along once in a generation and usually gets wasted. Her father was a drug addict. Her stepmother made the house a war zone. The cops she called twice didn't come the third time. One of them was on her stepmother's payroll. She left at 23, Tuesday morning, 2:14, an electrical tape laptop, and 4 years of code she'd taught herself in secret, in the dark. After everyone went quiet, no goodbyes, no plan, just forward. 17 tech job applications in Atlanta. No degree, no references, skills she couldn't prove on paper because she taught them to herself in a house that would have taken the laptop if anyone had known it existed. Nobody called back. So she became a maid, not forever. Just until the world caught up with what she already knew she was worth. The agency sent her to an estate in Buckhead, 7 bedrooms, marble floors, and a woman at the center of it who had never once considered that the person cleaning her bathroom had a life worth thinking about. The laptop stayed in her bag every single day. Her real name was Nadia Fatima Al-Rashid. She went by Viven in Atlanta, a name she'd chosen because it sounded like money and nobody here could say Nadia without making it sound like an apology. Her father was a Saudi oil minister, powerful, corrupt, untouchable. He sent her to America at 17, partly for school, mostly because her cruelty at home had become a diplomatic liability. She had struck staff, blacklisted drivers, made people kneel. In America, she wrapped it in silk, built a lifestyle brand, a fashion line. A social presence that said self-made, curated, aspirational. Nobody photographed the staff. Dahlia had worked in that house 2 years, eaten lunch standing at the counter, been called on holidays, denied sick days, treated not with cruelty, but with something colder, erasure. Right up until the night Viven ran out of patience first. It started with a comment. 14 guests at the dinner table, a senator, tech billionaires, a property developer from Dubai named Faisal who leaned toward Viven mid-sentence. Your maid, she is quite striking, almost distracting. He'd already moved on. Viven had not. She set down her glass, turned, looked at Dahlia, standing near the sideboard facing away with an expression the senator's wife would later describe as the coldest thing she had ever seen on a human face. Dahlia. The whole table heard it. 14 conversations died. Viven reached beside her chair, produced a thin gold-buckled leather strap, a fashion accessory she sometimes wore as a belt. She held it up between 2 fingers. Let it hang in the air. Let the room see it. Come here, get on the floor. Beside my chair. The room stopped breathing. Dahlia stood still. 3 full seconds. Her jaw tightened once. Then she made the calculation exhausted people make when they have nothing left and need to survive the next 5 minutes. She walked across the room, lowered herself to the floor, sat beside Vivien's chair. Viven leaned down, slowly, deliberately, and clipped the strap to the collar of Dahlia's uniform. Then she turned back to the table, straightened her posture, smiled. Where were we? Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Faisal stared at his plate. The senator's wife had gone pale. Jerome Curtis, a tech billionaire from Oakland, pushed back his chair, creating distance. "Bark," Viven said, softly, like it was obvious. Delia looked up at her. Eyes steady, face still, said nothing. "Bark," Viven said again, louder. Loud enough that no one could pretend they hadn't heard. Jerome Curtis stood up. "No," he said, quiet, firm, final. "This ends, right now. This is my house," Viven said, "and that is a person," he said. "So this ends." Viven unclipped the strap, set it beside her glass, looked at Delia. "You can go." Delia rose, smoothed her uniform, picked up her tray, and walked back to the kitchen, spine straight, face still, not one tear. With a dignity so complete 3 people at that table would describe it for years. In the kitchen, alone, she set down the tray. Ran cold water over her wrists. Her hands were shaking. She hadn't let them shake in the dining room. She let them shake now. Then she opened the laptop. 4 years of holding back. Done. Done. Some of you know what it feels like to hold yourself together in a room that has no right to break you. This story was made for you. Stay with it. She didn't sleep. For 8 months, she had been watching a crack in a wall. A military server cluster the government spent hundreds of millions to protect. 47 cybersecurity experts had tested it, certified it, staked their reputations on it, and declared it impenetrable. Delia had found the crack in 40 minutes. She had waited, biding her time, surviving that house, carrying that laptop, until tonight. She didn't force anything, she didn't break anything, she just walked through, the way water finds the one crack everyone else missed. By 6 in the morning, she was inside a server, the Department of Defense called untouchable. She took nothing, changed nothing, left one file, 3 pages documenting every vulnerability, every fix needed. At the bottom, plain text, critical vulnerability in Node Cluster 7. Full documentation above, "You're welcome, DC." She closed the laptop, made coffee, began updating her resume. 2 hours later, Viven called the agency. Reason, unsatisfactory performance. Effective immediately. Delia packed her bag and was at the bus stop by 9. Fort Meade, Maryland, 7:43 a.m. The breach alert hit like a thunderclap. By 9 it was confirmed, catastrophic vulnerability, real, the kind a nation-state would take 6 months to find. The intruder had taken nothing, left documentation so precise their own engineers couldn't replicate it in a week. Brigadier General Marcus Webb read the 3-page report, twice. Who wrote this? The trail resolved to an apartment in Vine City, Atlanta. Lease, Delia Carver. Age 27, no degree. Last known job, domestic staff. Get me a helicopter. They found her at the bus stop, backpack between her feet, granola bar in hand, job listings on her phone. Delia Carver? Depends on who's asking. Brigadier General Marcus Webb, U.S. Army Cyber Command. She looked up. Over the tree line the Black Hawk appeared, rotors loud before it was visible, then enormous. Descending into the Al-Rashid driveway like a verdict, she folded her wrapper, put it in her pocket, stood up, and walked toward it. Viven appeared at her front door. Watched Delia move through her own gate, toward the uniform, toward the machine that had arrived without permission. What is this? She works for me. I have not authorized. She is no longer in your employ, ma'am. Miss Carver is being engaged by the Department of Defense. Something moved across Vivien's face. Not anger, not arrogance. Confusion, the specific confusion of a person who has never once been outmaneuvered. She called her father. Riyadh, between courses. Father, there is an army general in my driveway trying to take my maid. 6 seconds of silence. From a man who was never silent. Nadia, listen carefully. Go inside. Let the girl go. Say nothing else to that man. Father, she is my employee. She is nothing of yours anymore. General Webb sits on the NATO Cyber Oversight Committee. If you say one more word, they look at who you are, they look at who I am, every account, every contract, every name. A pause. Do you understand what I am telling you? Viven lowered the phone. She stood at the gate of her own house. Silk robe, 7 bedrooms, An empire she'd spent 15 years building. The investments, the fashion line, the curated image, the name her father had made untouchable. And her father, the most powerful man she'd ever known, had just told her to stand down. Because of a maid. Because of the woman she had put on the floor and asked to bark. The money hadn't stopped it. The name hadn't stopped it. The call to her father hadn't stopped it. Nothing she had could touch what Delia had already become. Delia was almost at the helicopter when she heard her name. Delia, she stopped, turned. Vivienne stood at the gate, phone at her side, something moving across her face that had no name yet in her vocabulary. "Where are you going?" she asked, and for the first time the question had no weapon in it. Delia looked at her. "At the house." At the woman who had leashed her in front of 14 people and asked her to bark. "Somewhere," Delia said, "that you can't follow." She turned back. The general held the door. She got in. The rotors turned. The helicopter rose. And Nadia Al-Rashid stood in her own driveway and watched her go. Years later, Delia Carver stood in rooms full of senators, generals, and CEOs. Her own apartment. Her name on conference programs in cities she had once watched from bus windows. Cameras pointed at her face instead of her hands. And in almost every speech, she told the story. The dining room. The leather strap. 14 people watching. Getting on the floor, she would say.
"I want to be honest with you. I sat down because I was scared. Not brave, scared. I had rage, humiliation, grief, but I was too exhausted to act on it. I survived the room. That was all I could do that night."
Then she would pause, and the room always felt what was coming.
I chose not to. Not because she deserved my mercy, but because I refused to let what she did to me decide who I became.
Then she would tell them what happened to Vivienne. A stroke. 2 years after the helicopter. She survived, but the paralysis was total. She cannot walk, cannot dress herself, cannot lift her own hand. She lives in a care facility now. And every single day, every hour, she is dependent on the very people she once treated as invisible. Workers, attendants, maids who bathe her, feed her, turn her gently in the night. People whose names she never learned. People she once considered beneath her. They are the only hands she has left. Delia's voice would go soft here, not with satisfaction, with something it took her years to name. And then she would say,
I could never have planned that. No revenge I imagined came close to what God wrote for her life. He didn't destroy her. He just, quietly, placed her in the exact position she placed me. Helpless, dependent, in the hands of people she thought didn't matter. I am glad I didn't take revenge, because the best I could have given her was a court case. God gave her a mirror, and she has to look into it every single day. Don't treat people like they are beneath you, not because they might end up above you, but because someone is always watching, and he is far more patient and far more precise than any of us will ever be.
She would step back from the podium, and every time, without fail, someone in that room would cry. B, written for everyone who was ever told to sit on the floor. You were always the one they should have been afraid of.